also, on behalf of Related, we're very excited to have this event. When we developed the space, we really intended it to be more than our workspace. We really wanted it to be a community space, and we continue to be excited about partnering with the DDA on events like this. And this event puts a strong focus on design in the public realm, which we're very involved with. As you can see, all the improvements we're making on Rosemary Avenue and around the district here. Sustainability, art, and the idea, of course, of urban acupuncture, we'll hear about soon. I'd like to introduce Cheryl Moriente, Manager of Urban Placemaking for the West Palm Beach DDA. Cheryl uses her vast array of talents to develop... A lot of excitement here for sure.
I see.
Cheryl uses her vast array of talents to develop projects and programs that strengthen, beautify, and enhance the community. With her background in art and dance and degrees in architecture and urban planning, as Rafael Clemente says, Cheryl always remains outside of the box. I like that. That's really nice. So, Cheryl Moriente.
Thank you. Thank you everybody for being here tonight on a Friday night, right? Like, this is like happy hour, but for urban nerds. And the reason we came up with Emergence, the idea is to have these talks for now twice a year, and hopefully we'll do it again here with this great space that Related Companies has. Part of the idea is to learn from the outside, from internationally known architects, urban planners, artists, learn what they're doing around the world, and how can we emerge here from those themes and theories and apply them ourselves. So to start off and kick off this amazing lecture, we have today with us here Marco Casagrande. He's the principal of Casagrande Laboratories in Finland, based out of Helsinki. He's also professor of the Bergen School of Architecture and also vice president of the International Society of Biourbanism in Italy, and a lot of titles. Marco has realized about 83 works in 15 countries, done 65 academic interactions in 25 countries, won the UNESCO Global Award for Sustainable Architecture in 2015, European Prize for Architecture in 2013, and also been to the Venice Biennale, amongst other biennales, at least 5 times, representing 3 or 4 different countries, if I'm not mistaken. It's a lot of numbers to read. Casagrande tends to view the city as a complex energy organism, in which is like overlapping layers of energy flows, determining the actions of the citizens as well as the development of the city. By those means, urban acupuncture emerges from that. Part of it is to look at ecological, sustainable urban development towards the so-called third generation city, and focusing in massive wood architecture and urbanism and future wooden cities as part of nature. So nature really being the architect. And with that, I leave you to Marco Casagrande. Thank you for being here.
And this is how I grew up. I ended up sort of dealing with cities, but for me originally cities are total aliens. Actually, I thought as a child that cities are horror. This is our office. We're not very big, and like in many cases, of course, we do design and take part in the production, but with very good works, we also build them. So far we've been working in more or less 15 countries and continuously do teaching, and I'm at the moment a professor in Norway, and the works have been recognized. So I was invited 5 times to Venice Biennale so far, once representing Denmark, once representing Taiwan, once representing mainland China, and 2 times Finland. Then we got these awards, like UNESCO Global Award for Sustainable Architecture and European Prize for Architecture and so on. This is the first work that I want to show. So as said, I grew up in Lapland, in a very small village, and Finland has the highest ratio of desertation of the countryside in the whole Europe. People are moving to cities, abandoning cultures and local knowledge of hundreds or maybe even thousands of years in maybe one lifetime. So I wanted to comment on this by collecting 3 abandoned barn houses, and then I built legs for them so that they can walk after the farmers to the cities of the south. So the longing for the farmers, and also the field was abandoned, so we could just easily work on it. Huh? Yeah, okay. So this is a very, very simple construction. You have pine tree trunks upside down, and then 2x4 structure on top, and then you lift the barn house there like a hat. But then when this was done, we also built it, and I was happy it was there. But then when I went back to home, so I get this very strange feeling that I was like feeling empty in the stomach, and like kind of, let's say, feeling jealousy for my own work. I knew the barn houses were on the field and I was away, but I wanted to be still there. And I couldn't understand this. And then I talked to a friend who is a choreographer and contemporary dancer called Reijo Kela. So I asked him like, what's going on? And he said that in his profession this is normal. That first you prepare for the act, for the performance, then you get to the stage or wherever it takes place, and you take the situation and people and the energy, and then you have to end it. That there is this line of energy, because if you don't end it properly, then it starts like eating you, and it's not professional. So he said that this is some sort of performative architecture. It's a performance as he sees it, but I haven't ended. But I must still work with it somehow. So then we talk a little and put an advertisement to a local newspaper. It's really out in the countryside next to the Russian border in the forest. And say that there will be free sausage and vodka. So 6,000 people came. It's really in the forest, and this is now Reijo Kela is drinking vodka and giving to people and having a choreography going 47 minutes. Sort of getting more and more drunk, like let's say Finnish style. First you invite people and have a little bit of vodka, then too much vodka and you would get angry, melancholy, kick out your friends, and and then in the end just like burn your village or the whole shit. And the same here. So in the end we burned the whole thing. So it's like it was walking there for a while, but then we wanted to find out like a very how can this kind of like very humble architecture speak out loud about this desertation process, and this is also our conclusion. In some way, you can view that of course it's could be like a very violent act to burn a house, but in our case it's not that. And people were reacting very fantastically. They like spontaneously they make a circular wall around the burning barn houses, and some was crying and some predicting future and very shamanistic feeling. And then these pictures, they start to appear in the newspapers, and they became like an icon for the discussion about this desertation of the countryside. And then they popped over the borders in Europe and start to appear in different magazines, and even Architectural Review awarded us the Emerging Architecture Prize because of this. So, but for us, all this like the press or the awards and so on, they are an accident. So, but because of the works, then the director of Venice Biennale, Massimiliano Fuxas, so then he called us and said that he wants something like this, that come to Venice and make an architectonic installation and somehow to comment on the theme of the Biennale, which was Città, less aesthetics, more ethics, somehow to discuss the urban problematics. And what I wanted to do is to have a boat, industrial boat or ship, and put a forest into a ship in Finland, and then sail it to Venice, and attach it to some of the islands and open it as a public park. But then some of our friends, they're biologists, and they say that this thinking is unsound, that your trees will die somewhere around Biscaya Bay. The trees don't sail, that you have to find them in the same climate belt and so on. Okay, so then we go to Venice and start hunting for trees and start hunting for a boat, and 6 weeks before the opening we find one barge. It was like half sunk, so it's called Topo Gigio. So we take it as shore because we think maybe nobody cares about it so much, so we stole it. Then first clean it up and make a lot of welding to make it waterproof again, and then cut some openings to the central axis in order to create a series of interior spaces, and then start working more and more. So this is the boat now, and you have this sort of rusty steel and the central openings, and then a small forest of oaks which are growing there. And this is a Larsen element what you use for reinforcing the islands, as a ramp going down, and then some Nokia like cables for a handrail. But everything here is borrowed or stolen. So, like a very small budget, but kind of nice work. And also when we were working already, so I went to Fuxas and explained that okay, we have this boat now, and I'm gonna do this and this, and then he goes like, now you need to talk to the organization. So then I talked to the organization what we're gonna do, and then they are like, no. There's not going to be any boat, that we don't take any responsibility like that to let the public go to a boat, and no. And do you know how much it costs to put a boat to Arsenal Harbor? No idea. But it was too late, we were working already. So then in the end we just continue working. But then at some point we were thinking that it's not enough to contrast the organic growth and the industrial degeneration. That there is some level is missing. That it's not like the work is wanting to become bigger or more. It wants to say more. But what is it? And then for some reason we start to think that what happened when you flush a toilet in Venice? Where does everything go? And so then we start tracking the sewage system of Venice. Eventually it all comes to one big pipe, like Cloaca Maxima. And it comes to this sewage plant called Bioconc, 50 kilometers south of Venice. And there is this very fine character, the director of the plant called Dottore Codato. So I was asking him that how much in 1 year Venice produces human waste. And then he has his book and showed me like this much. And I'm looking at the number, but it's so big. It's totally abstract for me. So many kilos or cubic meters, I couldn't understand. Like, what does it mean? And so then I asked, like, how much 1 hour? 60 minutes. And then you see here, 67 cubic meters. And okay, this I understand. Like, can I have it? I said, yeah. So then I took like 1 hour from this Cloaca Maxima. It comes to 3 sedimentation pools. Then goes to a fermentation unit, and anti-aerobic bacteria fermenting and biologically cleaning the human waste, digested sludge. And then it comes out, and then you oxygenize it again, so it's an aerobic bacteria and composts it, becomes topsoil. And this topsoil then we take to the boat. So that's under the white stones. So in the last room there is no trees anymore, it's just saying that there's a marble stone in the corner saying that this park has been planted on 60 minutes worth of human waste produced by City of Venice. And the work itself is called 60-Minute Man. and these are landscape architecture students from Helsinki, and this is the digested sludge in like the Italians say, al dente condition. That's under the white stones. And then it was like a big reward because like we do this something like 60 kilometers south of Venice in a small port called Chioggia. And then when everything is ready, and you remember we were forbidden to do this. So then we put it next to another boat and tie it off and start sailing, motoring to Venice. And we informed like all kind of Italian media, Rai Uno and so on, that we are coming and donating a new park for Venezia. And then when we come to Arsenale, so it's full of press, like the docks are like full of press, big cameras are there. And because of the press, the organization could not stop. So you could see Fuchs and the other guys like little bit there, and then we come and tie off our boat and press comes in and New York Times was writing like this is the best exhibition in Venice Biennale. So it had to stay. Yeah. Here's another small, not too small, but anyhow, this is in Japan, in Niigata province, in a very small village called Kuramata, rice farming village. So they wanted us to do something. I went there, but it's so beautiful, the rice fields, and they've been there like centuries, and just felt like you cannot do anything, but you cannot touch anything. This is no. But then we found out that they had like an illegal garbage dump for the farmers by the river. The big red is a river on the bottom. River is called Kamagawa. And then we asked that, can we organize this garbage dump? And they are like, okay. So here is our work. It became a park for post-industrial meditation. The park is called Potemkin. It's made of steel. Here you see the fields of Kuramata. In the end, after all these rice paddies, so there is the last one, it's made of steel, and inside that is our park, or their park. So once you get in, the ground is descending, the walls they stay leveled. So first they are very low, but in the end maybe 5 meters high. And it's all kind of collage or composed of industrial materials. The steel is leftover steel from a shipping industry from Kawasaki. It's 1 inch thick. And then all kind of elements like broken concrete, broken glass, asphalt, and so forth. And pieces of machinery, but articulated more or less like a stone garden or Zen garden. So we like to think this is an industrial Zen garden. Yeah, it's something like 150 meters long and still standing there. But it was very interesting because those beautiful trees, they're also oaks. So when this was a garbage dump, you could not see the trees at all. They had somehow they were not there. But then when it was cleaned and articulated, suddenly these like very noble old trees were there. Here all the village can sit. It's only 120 people. So they sit here, and they had this very fantastic tradition that commemorating some samurai. So for 400 years, every evening they've been dancing. They make 2 circles and then they dance every evening to remember him. And so they were doing that in the Shinto temple, but when this was done, so they moved the dance here to our park. So that was very nice. Well, in the end, the walls are quite high. There is no trees anymore, or the leaf growths, they come from above. Then it turns into become an interior space, a little bit like an industrial temple. which is focusing down to the river. There is the Kamagava river. There is a good fish called aju, so you can go fishing. And if you catch the aju, so here is a fireplace, you build up fire, eat the aju, go home. And here's another park, 5 minutes from here. Yeah, it's called the CityZen garden. So it has some similarities, but in a very different condition. Now in a very urban setting here in West Palm Beach. It also has very industrial materials mixed with organic growth, different kind of vegetation, but also articulated in a way that it's a series of spaces and sort of promoting not to think too much. Here is one of the main spaces is a fish. So something what is true is that fish is real. So here is a fish. The blue stuff is broken and recycled glass. Then there is a small fountain and different kind of vegetations framing the space. Here's a small auditorium, but it's totally public and open. People can use it for different activities. Yesterday there was a blues band. There is some post-industrial sculptures made by Beju from here. This is called Dudali. It's kind of a infrastructure creature or alien who has surfaced and this time is meditating. And here he is waiting for a friend. A view of the park together with the new Broadstone development. And some like more framed spaces for meetings, talks, and being together. Again, the glass Zen garden with a little fountain. Dudali meditating. And poetry by Sherry Muriente. You should go and just sit and read. This is our crew for this park. Here's another one. This is very close now to the previous one was actually urban acupuncture already. This park is urban acupuncture. This is how I started to think of urban acupuncture, and this is from 2001 in Yokohama, which is the port section of the Tokyo metropolis. The work is called Bird Cage. So we got the invitation for Yokohama Triennale, and I was very eager to work like with very ultra-urban conditions, like in Tokyo, Ginza or Shinjuku, Roppongi. But the site what they gave to us was in the harbor, so I was very disappointed. And then I had to change my strategy, because I still wanted to attack the city, but now I have to attack from outside. So it's called Bird Cage. Very simple structure, rebars, and then a hemp rope. Big rope, natural material, what they use for tying off the boats in Yokohama harbor. So then make the rope around the structure and wait for rain. And when the rain comes, it gets soaking wet. And when it dries, it shrinks. And when it shrank, it became very structural with this little bit of steel. And here you see one bird. The bird, the wingspan is 72 centimeters. These are the parts of the bird. It's made of balsa. More birds, altogether 72 for the 72 days of the Yokohama Triennale. Inside every bird, there is a test tube, inside of which are 5 basic seeds of the Japanese vegetables, soya, soba, rice, and so forth. And a message that whoever finds the bird is asked to put the seeds to the ground and take care of or responsibility of the growth and report to us where he find it or she find it. Every day, one bird would be attached to a meteorological balloon filled with helium. And our structure is a silo. It's for launching these birds. So then the balloon, the meteorological balloon, will take the bird up to 9.7 kilometers. And in 9.7 kilometers, the air is so thin, so the helium will burst the balloon and release the bird. So the bird drops down until it gets enough oxygen under the wings. No nuclear war? Okay, so it gets enough oxygen under the wings and starts gliding. And it can glide for hundreds of kilometers, depending on the winds. So it can land to some of the Japanese islands, or it can go to the Pacific Ocean, but it's amphibious. So it can go to United States or North Korea. And then we start getting these messages. So like the birds were hitting skyscrapers in Tokyo, and people were like putting the seeds to the ground and taking photos and hello, hello, and sending us messages. And also the Japan Times, they wrote a big article saying that this is the antithesis of the 9/11 terrorist attack, because our birds are also hitting the skyscrapers, but instead of destruction, they are bringing in connection between modern man and nature. Here's another work. This is a very small one in Norway, a place called Rosendal. It's in the end of Hardanger Fjord. And they contacted and said that they want to have a piazza, that they don't have any square or piazza for their village, that can we come and design. So we went there, but find out that it's in the end of the fjord and every house is looking ocean or the fjord. So they're totally committed for the sea, and actually it's a Viking settlement. So it just felt really wrong to do a piazza for them. So I said no, and no piazza for you. And then we said that no worries, we can build you a sauna. And so this is it. So because they're so focused on the sea, so we built them a very small public sauna, which is floating on the sea. And every house can see it. Nighttime, it's like a lantern there. You go there with a rowing boat or swim there, heat up the sauna and enjoy there. And that's their kind of a piazza now. Yeah. The walls are semi-transparent, so you can see some figures of people, but maybe not too detailed. And then the floor is water. So when you are up there, so it's like plus 80 degrees Celsius, but then straight to Atlantic. But this is very, very much improvised. It's some sort of a Norwegian crappy stove called Jötul. Of course, you can get a very decent from Finland. It's the stove again. But this, like when you are there, and like having the sauna, and then the sea is like rocking you slowly, so it's very interesting feeling. Yeah. This is in Florence, Firenze, in Piazza della Repubblica. So for 1 year, we collected books from all over the world, religious, political, philosophical books, kind of like answers for big questions or big questions for some answers. And then we start getting these books, in the end 15,000. And then these books we take to Piazza della Repubblica and make this structure. So here we are building And the Italians were very close to our face all the time. But what are you doing? And it's nothing. We're making these books and make a wall of books. And what does it mean? And, what does it mean for you? and so on. They're very irritated and anyhow I was happy when the wall was somewhere here and he was mumbling, continuing. But here you see when you go outside, so you can see here is Bible or Quran or Bhagavad Gita or Das Kapital, and so the big names are here, title bags. But then when you go inside, so everything becomes white paper. So inside you can no longer tell where is Quran or where is Bhagavad Gita. It's just because books are like that. So that's what we did. And then we went to have some break in a hotel, came back, and boom, nothing left. I'm like, what the hell? We 1 year collect these books, then we 2 weeks working, and this is it. And then here's a restaurant called Jubberosse. So these guys from the Jubberosse came and said, you want to know what happened? I said, yeah. And just come. So they have this security camera, which was made for their restaurant, but our work was there in the corner. There was this scene that quite many people are watching the work, and then one guy comes with a suitcase and he's seeing that what are the people watching, and then he goes there and sees if he can get the book. And of course he can. So he takes a book, put to the suitcase and walks away, and boom, all the crowd attacks and rips the whole thing apart. So yeah. So then you can see this kind of nonno, a grandfather there with 5 kilo of Lenin written in Lithuanian, what he could never read but still must get. Yeah, but because of this action, so we get the first prize of the Firenze Biennale called Lorenzo il Magnifico, because the reaction of the people was so big. This is in Havana, Cuba. So we were not allowed to, it's long time ago, so we were not allowed to take any construction material there, and it was politically a little bit not too easy. But we knew that around this a kind of a big university area, there was lying around this very big iron bar, maybe 600, 700 kilos. So this we knew that that's there. So then we took from Finland 10 kilometers of fishing line and flew back. And then we stretched this between 2 university buildings. And the work is called Quetzalcoatlus. Quetzalcoatlus was the last flying dinosaur. And so it works so that when the sun is up, the iron gets hot. And when it heats up, the fishing lines are stretching. So it comes almost to the ground. And when it chills out, so it comes up again. So it makes slow motion flying movements according to the temperatures of the day. Here it is almost to the ground. But it's a very dense system. If you cut off one of the lines, the whole system will collapse. It's little bit our interpretation of Cuba actually. It's maybe the last flying dinosaur, but it's some beauty in the flight and makes very nice sound and so on, but the system can collapse too quite easily, I think. This is in Kinmen Island. Next, it belongs to Taiwan, but it's very close to China. The city, what you see there, is already mainland China. So it's just some kilometers. This is called Oystermen. So they have a very, very long tradition of oyster cultivation there, and this is celebrating that. So here is Kinmen, and then there is a small island, and underwater road. So because there is quite big tidal differences, or big and big, 3 meters. So when the tide has been ebbing and gone, there is a road, you can go to the small island. But then when it builds up again, so the road is disappearing. So that's where the oystermen are, they are like standing by this road. Here you see. So now the water has gone and they are standing there. So this is 3 meters. So when the tide is up, they're like walking on the water, and now it's like this. And slowly all their legs will be covered by oysters. Now the water is up, so they are just standing there. And the fishermen are using them, so we negotiate with them. So the hat is actually a solar panel, and it is collecting energy during the day, and nighttime it is illuminating, and that's the road or the way how the fishermen come to the shore. So these have become like very mystical creatures there. The Chinese or the Taiwanese think that they are some sort of guardians towards the ghosts. There is some sort of a ghost moon, maybe September, and these are taking care that things are going good. Very briefly, this is an illegal settlement, let's say do-it-yourself settlement in Taipei City. More or less 400 households called Treasure Hill. Here you have those buildings. So it used to be a Japanese Imperial Army anti-aircraft position, so it had a lot of bunkers. And then when Kuomintang retreated from mainland China, they took over the bunkers, and the soldiers were like operating there. But then they start to get wives and so on, and they turned bunkers into homes. And that's that's the settlement. But the Taipei city government decided to destroy it in 2003, that they will change it into a park. And then I was called in by some people. The destruction was already so that they had bulldozed the first 3 layers of the terraced settlement away, but because there was no roads, so the bulldozers could not get higher. And then they just destroyed bridges and steps between buildings, so that kind of like the nervous network of this urban organism was deleted, and then they just, well, then the houses just became like objects, and then they let them slowly die there. Also they destroy their farms, it's an urban farming community. So I kind of reversed the process from destruction to construction. It can be a very, very fine line, of course. But start making the farms again and start making these connections between houses. Here the farming is already going, and so that people can get home or away from home, and make everything of wood, because wood is the fastest way of getting into architectural scale. So I had 3 weeks to do this. We had 200 volunteer students, and then makes this happen. But here's been really good luck, because for some reason, again, New York Times was in Taiwan, and this reporter was, I don't know, doing what, but anyhow. So then she came here, and then this is a window. But came here and then wrote a big article in New York Times that this is a must-see destination in Taiwan. So then the city government was like really puzzling that what's happening now. And in the end we made it legal, so it's still there. Now the original community has become a little bit old, or maybe even go to some other existences, but it's a Taipei artist village now, so they are continuing. But this is a ruin, and ruin is very important for me. Like ruin for me means that something man-made has become part of nature. For example, nature reads very easily architecture. It's just us who sort of keep nature away. Same goes for urbanism. So I'm looking for this kind of, I call it third generation condition, even with cities, when the cities are part of nature. So this is the third generation condition. Now we are in the second generation city, which is the industrial or mechanical city. But what is the organic ruin of the industrial city? Or how can industrialism learn to become an organic machine? So that is a nice question, and it's totally possible. Industrialism is very young. Treasure Hill is matriarchal. This is Mrs. Chen, 86 years old. She became my sort of grandmother there. This is her. So then we interview her a lot, and also different kinds of this little bit older generation Taipei citizens, fishermen and grandmothers who exactly remember how this development of the city has gone, or when did some fish cease to come back to the river because it got polluted. And for them, this first generation city, when city was part of nature, it's still a living memory. Like us, well, for the young students, it's a fiction. We are talking about ecology, but they've been living it. Same thing, of course, with the fishermen and so on. So we are interviewing these kind of local knowledge professors and taking that data to our designs. And to take this kind of design further and research further, we set up an independent research center in Taipei City in the center called Ruin Academy. This is the Ruin Academy. So we occupy a 5 floors high apartment building. We kick off like all the windows, all the interior walls, so that it's only the primary structure of this building is left. Instead of glass, for example, we grow bamboo for the windows. And then all the interior walls are gone. And then when it was ripped off of all these unnecessary or secondary structures, so then we start drilling holes through the whole building. Start from the roof and all the way so that it can rain inside. Because if you have water, topsoil, light, so you can start growing things. Of course, some corner left dry so you can sleep. Now here comes in. Yeah, bamboo for the windows, keep the noise out and storms. Also blew open the basement in order to find the original ground so that we can grow trees. There's a cello, but in the corner there's a pile of dirt with taro, a root, what you can eat. This is taro. It's a bed, but bed is on the wheels, so if it's raining straight on top of you, you can roll to a little bit drier spot. It's not totally modern, this, but little bit, let's say, caveman style. Here is where the researchers and students, they are working and sleeping. Some vegetable garden, some sort of vegetable. Deer. Deer, okay. But the big thing was like this inside the city. So how to deal with the neighbors? Because this is totally illegal. But we talked with the city government, the Department of Urban Development, and they say that, okay, Marco, we cannot give you a permission, but we will not stop you. So I could do it. But how to deal with the neighbors? That's like a real thing. So then we make a big model, and then was taking this model to the neighbors and explaining what we try to do instead of drawings, because it's too abstract. But with the model they could see and said, yeah, go. And then we get this like we could work. So this is the model, part of it is the real condition. There's some fireplace in a room. Here is a sauna, public sauna on the 5th floor. It's the best sauna in the Pacific. And this is a big inspiration. It's an urban bonsai. So this tree has been growing. There's like some sort of crack or this in the facade. So the seed has found a place, and then he knows exactly how much rainwater is coming, how much topsoil the wind is bringing, how big are the winds and so on, and grew like this. So I've been following this tree since 2010, and it has not grown an inch. I'm calculating the leaves and stay the same. This is existence maximum. And like, this is it. And then on the other side, like around the corner is the same tree, same species, but this is 5 floors high. And then the roots are not touching ground. So we hire a structural engineer with a scanning device, asking like, where are the roots going? So he's going in the house and then reports to us after a week or so. And he says that there are 2 sets of roots. That one set of roots goes to the concrete slabs of the building, and they are penetrating inside there. And the other set of roots goes to the sewage system. So the tree knows exactly how much people are using water, toilet, and that's it. And it's living from that. And then it's holding the whole house as a primary structure. So this tree would not be here without architecture, and it would not be here without people. If people and architecture are not here, it will die. So this is the 3rd generation condition. Like when we are sharing architecture with nature, or the city, nothing else. And of course, nature works in every scale the same way. It just has one rule, like existence maximum, the biggest possible life production. And same thing with the city. If the city is against the life production, so then we are pollution. Same goes for architecture. But if you regard nature as the co-architect, so then no problem. This is what people do. Still Taipei. So this is an illegal community garden. The pink house is Taipei World Trade Center. So this is the most expensive land in Taipei. 3 banks have been fighting for it for 3 decades. None of them get control. So the anarchist grandmothers have attacked. And they changed this into community garden. And children come from the school, they're carrying water for the grandmothers and help with the farming, do homework and so on. So it's culture. And this is the 1st generation condition. Around is this mechanical Taipei, but this is penetrating through the very thin layers of concrete and asphalt to the original ground. Here are all the illegal farms, community gardens, do-it-yourself settlements in Taipei Basin. So this is the real map of urban acupuncture. These are the punctual interventions, what people are spontaneously doing in order to tune the industrial city towards the organic. So this is real acupuncture, urban acupuncture. It's not controlled or designed, it's just what people do. Taipei Basin, 7 million people. And this is the official solution how to live together with nature. Other side is the industrial man. And then you have 12 meters high reinforced concrete wall. And then is a river. Absolutely no connection. Here's another ruin academy. I just show some pictures. It's in South Taiwan, in an abandoned Japanese sugar factory. So this is the factory, and we make a deal with the community and the county that we can have this and put a forest inside. And the forest can grow untouched until 2021, and then we will open the factory. Come again and see how much jungle has taken place and what can we do next. the final aim is to turn this into a fine arts museum. But now the jungle is just growing. So it's a Japanese sugar factory from 1906. And have to break the building, of course, take rainwater in, also reverse the rainwater system so that can harvest rainwaters from the roofs, take it to the tanks, then by gravity to the farms and to the jungle, but also break the building so that insects can start coming in, then rats, snakes, and so on. And we work with both Chinese, like valley people, and with aboriginals, like Polynesian tribes called Amis. And the Polynesian tribes, they know better how different kind of plants, eatable plants, are working up in the jungle, in the mountain, on the mountains. So they introduce us those species and what kind of conditions they need, and then the Han Chinese knew more about normal cultivation. But very powerful space, and this kind of meeting when you open up the industrial control and nature steps in. So this, then what starts happening is somehow very interesting. It's not really up to us to control it or design it. We're just letting it happen. Some water gardens, jungle. Yeah, but slowly, the whole factory will become green. Here are some participants of the first workshop. The whole transformation took 3 weeks. Here are some topics what we've been researching with these ruin academies: illegal architecture, urban acupuncture, river urbanism, urban nomad, organic machine, and parasite urbanism. But all these issues have come with the talks with the anarchist grandmothers. So it's not our inventions or some architectural theories, it's what the grannies know. Then some sort of interior urbanism. So many elements that you see before, they can also happen inside. This is just in a very normal space which is being changed for a kind of performance space for the Union of Musicians in Finland. But inside here everything is also recycled. The floor is broken bricks or recycled bricks, asphalt, even railroad tracks, and so on. I will just show some photos. This is the stage in the back, and the wall is made of recycled bricks which make a diffusion, so it's very good for acoustics. All the loudspeakers are made in the forest, handmade by Genelec. This is the acoustic wall. Fazioli, very happy with the bricks. And the stage is made of glass, so, but not like a flat, but laminated. So vertically laminated pieces of glass, 6,000 kilos. And because it's vertically laminated, the surface is uneven, so it breaks the sounds nicely and heavy enough for the musicians to like feel how they play. The walls, some of the walls are made of recycled white tiles, and then moss and other kind of like living things which can survive in room temperature and don't need watering are growing there. Moss in the roof. Then we're coming downstairs, so some toilets. Copper from what you use normally for the roofs, so the old sheets of roof copper for the walls, and then a lot of broken tiles for the mosaic. backstage for the musicians. Also the wall is made of roof bricks here. Another photo for that. And some moss, or what's that called? Things are growing. And then we go one floor up, so there is Radio Helsinki, and little bit spaces for them. Studios and offices, broadcasting, also the whole wall is green. It's good for the broadcasting actually. And then we go even one floor up, so there is a good sauna and lounge. Yeah, it's nice. Well, later we soon come to the sauna, but some office spaces for them, hanging around. Again, copper from the roof. This is the sauna now. And there is this one person called Freddy, Mr. Freddy, who has the biggest behind in the Union of the Musicians. So we have to measure his behind when he's sitting, and they're very proud of him. He's a good musician. And that became the measurement of the sauna. Okay, and then a little bit about insect architecture. So this is CICA, and this is in Shenzhen, South China. So all these Chinese cities, they are built by migrating workers. Migrating workers come from countryside. So, and then we talk with them that if you come from countryside, you must have local knowledge. You must know how to deal with nature. But they come from different places, so they have a lot of local knowledge. And then we try to think like how to apply that into architecture or how to do the cities instead of those kind of high rises. So these guys were coming from a province called Guangxi, quite close to the Vietnam. And they say that we can do anything out of bamboo. So there was bamboo growing, we harvested bamboo, then one-to-one start sketching to the ground, like can you do this shape and so on, and how high can we go, and then start building. So again, material budget is zero. And together with these Guangxi guys, make this pavilion is called a bug dome. And in this bug dome, there is not one nail or any industrial connector, it's only bamboo. And it's weak architecture, very weak compared to the stubborn city. But it's still so strong that when you go inside, the whole city disappears. The space is something different. It does something for you. So the city disappears, and then you are within this cocoon of weak architecture. And it's like treating you. There is a stage for them because they want to sing karaoke. It's an unofficial social club for migrating workers. Now this is the karaoke stage. At night time they put like one construction light and it turns into a disco. But very, very fine lines if you compare to the skyscraper. This is interesting dialogue now. And super good microclimate. Shenzhen is hot, but here is very nice. It's 32 meters long and 7 meters high. Some curators of the Shenzhen Hong Kong Biennale, bosses of migrating workers. Some sort of karaoke event is cooking up. But this is the most important. because from the beginning, these guys, they were like regarding nature as the co-architect. Like for them, it would be stupid to work against nature or waste energy. Kind of one essence of local knowledge is to be as lazy as possible. So here too, they were just like piling dirt here in the bottom, and then wait for a while and the whole thing is overtaken by creepers. And then the microclimate is even better. Another similar kind of structure, but very different place now in Belgium, on the shore in Venduin, called Sandworm. So there are beaches and dunes. The dunes are always more or less the same size. So you can measure them, and it's wind who makes them, and then they travel. So they have also anatomy. So we measure the dunes and then copy the movement of the dunes. The material is willow. So again, you can harvest willow for free, and then make a big bucket structure. So also here, no nails, nothing, only willow. And it's on the beach, so there is absolutely no function. It's just like the beach. People use it as they use it. This is 50 meters long, 12 meters high. The local people call it the Willow Cathedral. No nails. So it was very charming work. We worked for 6 weeks and just make like one move over and over again, and slowly this comes up. If you would plant this on a fertile soil, it would start growing. It would root. Then going inside. The light is quite nice. The opening is directed for full moon. Grandmothers. And our office. Then a very simple house for farmer couple up in the Datura Mountains of North Taiwan. This is made of wood, mahogany. It's called Chen House, and it's also weak architecture because in this place there are earthquakes, very hot weather, storm waters, very nasty insects, snakes, and sort of you name it. And a normal reaction for a modern man would be to build a concrete box, human inside and the rest outside. But that's not normal. If you think like local knowledge or indigenous architecture, it's been very, very different based on weakness or flexibility. So also here the storm waters, they are like running under the house. It's raised above the ground, so they can run freely under. It's made of wood, so when you do this, if there are snakes, the snakes will feel it, go away. And it's flexible, so when the big storms are hitting it, it's moving, more or less like a boat. Here is a Datun river, and the jungle starts immediately. The Datun river is generating winds. So big task for the house is how to capture the winds, so that it's bioclimatic, so that you don't need air conditioning. There is an interior place, and everywhere around are different kind of terraces. There is a smaller unit which is a kicker, or let's say outrigger of this house. It's supporting the structure from outside, like a Polynesian canoe. These high windows are for wind catching. And then a fireplace inside. This is the area for kitchen outside. Kitchen. Roof terrace. Low chimney, so that same time when you are cooking tea, you can smoke a pig. And the interior, there is in the back there is the bed where the couple can sleep, but they're outside all the time. But when they need a rest, they can come here. Sort of like interior sunset. So the wall towards west is gaped wood. So when the sun is setting, it's very heavy inside, and you get this feeling of like interior sunset. But also when it's raining, it will rain inside. But the bed is not close to the wall. There's maybe 90 centimeters. So the rain comes, you can touch it, but it don't come to your bed. It's a very simple structure. I make a big model, talk with the farmers so that they understand what to do, and I built this myself too. Or my wife actually made the foundations. This is Mr. Chen, he's the farmer. So I was working there more or less 3 months with this, and he did not participate. So he was like farming all the time and watching me. And I was a little bit annoyed, but anyhow. And so I was continuing working, and then one day I was like reaching for more nails. I was a bit high already, so like reaching for more nails. So then he was there and giving me the nails. And then I knew that, okay, now he wants to come in. So I take the nails, and then he comes in, and he had been observing me for 3 months, very Chinese style. So like he was like expert. He came in and all his like when he saw he was like expert, much more careful than me. And then he finished his own house. This is now a different house. It's actually more a ruin than a house. The project is called Ultra Ruin, and it's in a jungle close to Taipei. So there was actually existing red brick farmhouse, and I used this red brick farmhouse as a foundation from where to grow the new architecture made of wood. So here you see the red brick farmhouse as the heart, and then the new organic architecture growing from it. You go through the jungle, then you start entering the ruin. There's an interior courtyard, big roofing structure, and a table. So this I built first, the table. So then I could talk with the family, like what do they really want? We have the table, like where's gonna be bedrooms and so. And first thing we needed a roof for the table, and then step by step more things. But this is where everything started. Fireplace, looking down to the valley, and jungle starts immediately. Very simple details. Wood, bronze, stone. Again, the courtyard. A bathtub for the mother. Moon for the mother. There you see the moon again. The whole loft of the mother is made of gaped wood. And all the roofs are terraces, because this used to be a terraced farmland, so we dig out all those terraces and clean from the jungle, and then use architecture to continue with this terrace system. And nature is growing in. a roof terrace they use for meditation. They do qigong here. Window for the kitchen inside, and big steps connecting all those different layers and step like terraces. And here you see a good example. There are just some wires, but the architecture or the space is left unfinished. And then the nature is coming in and starts articulating it, like here. Sauna. Sauna is cooking up, and then you have a small pool. So we are collecting water from the mountain. It's relatively cold. Take to the pool. Sauna inside. And the pool. Here is a vertical structure. They use the pool and sauna also quite heavily, kind of meditation. Of course they're cleaning themselves, but when they go especially to the pool, it's cold water, so there is a very strong vertical axis, and then they stay there for a while. Couple of more projects. So this is this is called Paracity. It's like a parasite city or a parallel city, but it has developed from original ideas to different directions. Originally we were supposed to do for Taipei City like a third generation city, organic urbanism. So this is part of it. The original site is an island, a flooding island on a river, between 15,000 and 25,000 people, using very simple modules. These are 6x6x6 meters and made of wood, CLT, cross-laminated timber, massive enough so that it don't burn. Some possibilities of the structure, primary structure, and then people attach their things, their homes and farms and gardens, communities. So we take care of the primary structure, circulation and so on, and then it starts to become something site-specific. Primary structure again. It's 5 times lighter than concrete, so less foundations and so on. Here's the island with the Paracity. But we are also cooperating with the National Institute of Research in Finland for modular environmental technology. So it's a self-sufficient city. There are kind of inner organs which are purifying water, generating electricity and so on. So the water we take from the polluted river, we clean it up, pump it to the roofs, we root cleanse it further, oxygenize it, and then take by gravity to the houses and communities and infrastructure. This is a flood water scenario. When the river, Indian River, is flooding, so the first 6 meters is left empty. People are using it for Tai Chi or fixing the boats or whatever, night markets. But when the river is flooding, it's flooding. And then it stands on water. And we remember this wall, the flood wall of Taipei. So the main thing of Paracity is that when it gains momentum enough on the island, then it can grow over the wall. So this is the flood wall. And then it becomes a mediator between the modern city and the nature. It's connector. So it starts from the island and then grow to the city like a positive cancer. This is the module, 6x6x6 meters. So you can have 1 floor, 2 floors, 1.5 floors, leave it empty. It takes us 1.5 hours to put one together. That's co-architect Marlon Casagrande, my son. And here's another same principle, but for interior use. So we can take even big scale industrial buildings and start building these, let's say, interior cities inside or interior urbanism and activate those spaces. This one is in Estonia. Here we are going 4 floors high, don't need any machine, you can just carry the things. Takes 15 minutes to put up 1 cube. And this is for a developer in Taipei. The JUT developers is the same system, but little bit more high-end. So you have the primary system of the cubes, and then you are attaching glass and CLT panels. Gives a lot of flexibility how it can grow. We can even grow over, let's say, over highways if we want, or if you, like in Finland, we have a case where it's a Russian shipyard, 380 meters long. So we are like growing the parasite over it, and it stays inside functional. And then a very different scale. This is a micro apartment building, 3 floors high, and the footprint is 1 car parking spot. 2.5 times 5 meters and 3 floors high. The material is same, it's CLT. Here is one in Helsinki, but we have done this in England and Belgium and so on. But I will show some photos. So it takes 4 hours to put up one. It's so light, it don't need any foundation. So under the ground floor, there is a box, and maybe it's 60 centimeters high. It comes to the side empty, and then we fill it with sand. It comes so heavy that we can, all these modules, they are prefabricated. They come to the side, and we just attach them like Legos on top of each other, and that's it. You can either like plug it to normal city infrastructure, water, electricity, and so on, or make it like self-sustainable. There is a lot of technologies which are developed for caravans and so on. Yeah. But it's ridiculous how easy this is to build. Like normally when you talk about construction, and it's so like it's not so easy. But this is so easy. 4 hours and it just pops up. And imagine if you have like here, just outside the window, I could have what? 200. Yeah. And then it breaks nicely like because this, when you have those big streets and the cars are going, it's so violent. Like we are with our bodies here, and then these big bodies of massive steel are going there, but this can be in between. So the cars can still go there, but it would take the scale down and acoustics better and city more humane. And it's very easy to program. Like you can make a catalog, like what kind of boxes do you want to assemble? I want yoga, sauna and office, or like whatever. In here we have a greenhouse on top. We are at the moment making one for Amstel beer in England actually. So that it's a pub. The work is called in Finnish tikku, which means stick. Different programs what you can put inside, but this can be endless. Solar panels. Or if you really want to have the car or keep the car so build on top of them. Because this is also very strange. Every city is talking about densification and claiming that there is no space in the city. Total bullshit. It's a lot of space, but it's for the cars. Yeah, but anyhow, like I think it's too much to kick them away. So maybe build on top of them and or whatever. It's not like on-off situation. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Thank you very much. So I know we're a little bit like behind schedule, which I think is fine, because this was very interesting. Before we go to questions, I just want to make sure I call out our partners. So thank you to related companies for hosting us in this beautiful space. 1909 was huge in helping promote this, and also Connect West Palm Beach, which brought the volunteers that made this come together. So if there's any questions, please just raise your hand, I'll call you out, and Marco will answer. Right. Yes, go ahead.
This may be my question. A lot of those sound like passion projects that your heart is in them. Are they most of them commission, or do you envision them more in the approach to the area? Because in a perfect world, everyone would want to do it. You had mentioned something about the city came to love it after the fact of the city, but in modern day, we play by certain rules and permits and etc. So I'm kind of wondering how that process works for you.
Yeah, this what comes to funding the projects and getting permissions and all this normal production and working with the building codes and especially in different countries. So these things don't happen just like that. So actually we have to prepare quite a bit, and in some cases, for example, when we are dealing with illegal communities or the work itself is illegal until a certain point. So there needs to be different kind of strategies. But quite often it can be, for example, let's say like a Trojan horse. At the same time somebody is commissioning you. It can be even the same city, like in Taipei. They were commissioning me and they were paying me and they flew me in. But they could not officially commission me to work with Treasure Hill. So I was doing officially urban ecological restoration plans for the city, and that was my commission, but in fact I was working with Treasure Hill. But it can be many different combinations, and I want also to say that the city governments, they are not so stupid. Although they are hierarchical and there are a lot of disciplines and departments, and they know also that they are kind of crippled because of this. So then these ruin academies, and they are happening, and they are actually commissioning them, but somehow officially they cannot do it, but it's still happening.
Just a quick question. I love this, you can build something in 4 hours. My practical question is, how does that withstand Florida weather, hurricanes?
Yeah, I think I was trying to think that too, actually today, and I have never been here during a hurricane, but I know they are really vicious. But I've been working in Taipei quite often during typhoons, so I know a little bit about that. But how this stick works, so I think that's only an engineering question. So in Finland, we've been using only this box for sand, and it's enough for our storm calculations and snow load, for example, which you don't have to worry about. But then maybe this bed of sand is replaced with concrete, or even, who knows, steel sheets or whatever, so that it's heavy enough, because this CLT, that's for sure strong enough, and it has excellent earthquake performance and excellent storm performance. It's just this, that since it has no foundation, how this anchoring is heavy enough, I would say so.
community and they have a different culture and different way of doing things, and Datura is a great example. And convince them that this idea of architecture that lives with the college and the natural environment is a really great idea. Imagine like Miami. How do you convince the community that this is a great opportunity?
This like because like these my communities who I've been working with, let's say for example Taipei. So I have absolutely no way to communicate. I don't speak Chinese. Or like 2003 when I worked with this Treasure Hill, 400 households. So the way I did was that because the city already had done the destruction, so the inhabitants had accepted the slow death. So for example, they were no longer taking their garbage away, but they just left it on the street. And I was angry. So what I started to do, I was carrying the garbage from the hill down the first day, then the second day, and then maybe the third day they start to help. But still I could not talk. We were just carrying the garbage down. But I could arrange a truck, and then the garbage went away. And then they saw that I can do something. And first 3 days they've been watching me being the garbage man. And this they understand. And same thing, like when I restart the farm. So I was just restarting the farm. And I had no idea how to do farming in Taipei. So I was doing my farm kind of like a potato field, which I have small knowledge about. And I was doing my potato field there, and then this Mrs. Chen came, who I didn't know even that existed. So suddenly comes there together with a student and start pitching me, like in Chinese. And then I'm watching the student, that what is she saying? And the student say that Mrs. Chen says that your farm is really bad. And then I'm like, okay, now what is a good farm? And then she explains that when the typhoon comes, my farm is washed away. So first I have to build it up and make big ditches and so on, so that storm waters can go. But then, at the same time when this Mrs. Chen is telling me this, all the village is watching. And they see now Mrs. Chen is teaching the garbage man how to do farming. So suddenly all the village come down and start restarting their own farms. And like that. So kind of like a physical body and making mistakes.
I'm really interested in your process. You seem like you're a part architect, part philosopher, right? So, what comes first? Is it just sort of conception of what you want to build, and then like the structure sort of follows that, or is it the structure you want to build and then sort of build a philosophical idea around it? How does it work for you?
Well, there is only one rule. I want to build. That's the rule. Yeah, so I really want to build. And the harder the case, the better I am. So you can parachute me wherever, and I get it built. And that's it. No philosophy.
Your work seems to either comment on rural spaces or be focused on very urban spaces, post-urban spaces. But here, especially, we have a lot of suburban spaces that have a lot of problems in themselves. Have you ever thought of addressing yourself to like suburban America or these places like that?
Yeah. I would love to do that.
What do you think that this kind of philosophy can bring to it, or this kind of?
I don't know. There is also something that, if you get this kind of feeling that the construction site is important enough that you can die on it, so then it's good. And so I'm sure what comes to your hardcore suburban questions, so there is no easy way around it. So it really needs to be very raw work, but it can be done. It needs to deal with the collective subconscious. and you need to penetrate to that. It's more like shamanism.
So at one moment in your presentation, you got pretty passionate about cars and the heaviness of cars in urban environments. So my question is, do you envision a future in urban environments where there are no cars? And if so, how would you envision repurposing the street?
I think what comes to cars is that I don't. So I think I have to little bit consider my lifetime. So like if I totally think that there would be no cars, it's like I feel like I'm kind of like wasting my time. I'm accepting the cars, but like. But how to deal with them, and maybe they need to compromise a little bit. We can build more, but it's sure that we're gonna burn every drop of oil that we found.
Hello. So getting back to the cross-laminated timber as a mode of construction, do you have any experience building that in a hot and humid climate like South Florida? And what have been the lessons learned? Because obviously we have to deal with warping, termites, the hurricane
Pollution, UV radiation, and so on. We are doing our CLT structures mainly in northern climates, but we have very close cooperation with CLT constructors who are building a lot, especially in Singapore. So Singapore is really big for CLT at the moment. Taiwan is coming up. Japan is big too, but it's a very closed market, so they use their own CLT. But what comes to treatment of CLT is just wood. So you treat it like whatever kind of wood. But for termites, the UV radiation, pollution, so we can easily give you a 50-year guarantee. So industrial 50-year guarantee, like whatever condition, how many termites you want to bring me, doesn't matter. But so you get your 50-year guarantee, like whatever the place in this world.
What about hurricane impact?
Yeah, much better than concrete. This is because the earthquake performance is superb compared to reinforced concrete. So must be also the hurricane thing. If it works in Singapore with the typhoons, it works here.
If you were to do anything in West Palm Beach right now, I mean, obviously your city, your park, but like, what would be another type of project that you would do, like, you do whatever you wanted?
I think there are, what happens with the cars, the problem is not the cars itself, but the infrastructure is so heavy that your city is quite divided, especially in like community scale. So you have very big roads going and dividing places. And I would like to build another kind of layer on top of those highways. For example, this paracity or other kind of like undulating structures which can be really big, like kilometers, which can be totally for pedestrians, shops, communities, maybe even farming. And the cars continue running under. But these kind of elements that are connecting the city parts together. So you need another layer on top of this city.
You talk a lot about architecture, but a lot of that alludes to infrastructure. So is that like, it seems like a logical progression, much of the push about cars, about trends moving in that direction. So space is obviously an issue everywhere. But in our community, so how the weather is really matters. People are challenging parking and commutes and things like that. So have you thought about maybe moving into that realm and applying some of those same tactics into infrastructure instead of architecture?
I would like to give a lot of answers, but first you have to really commission me. I want to work here, no problem. Just commission me.
one last announcement. The next talk will be in September. We will be having Philippe Danjou come in to talk about ethics in architecture through the lens of Sartre, which is about existentialism and why we build things. So again, always trying to open the mind into much different topics. So again, round of applause and thank you, Marcus.